What's up, everybody? I'm Taylor, and I'm powerless over life, but not my reaction to life. I just want to start off saying I am more than grateful for the subscribers, for the viewers, for the people leaving comments of support and encouragement. Y'all are the reason I keep posting these videos, to share my personal experience, strength, and hope with people who are willing to listen. And that's exactly why I built up the courage to do these things. Very grateful. This video is going to focus on my experience with Step 4 in Alcoholics Anonymous. I've been sober since 2020. I've been involved in 12-step programs for about 2 years now, maybe longer. I'm losing count. I don't really count the days. And the 4th step is the one thing that would have me running away with fear, because I feared the person I had become. I feared seeing reality for what it was, because I didn't have healthy coping mechanisms to help me deal and navigate pain. I didn't know how to regulate my emotions without turning to using or crying for 6 hours at a time and then in bed for the next several days because I was physically drained. It didn't matter that I took away the addiction, because my problem was my emotions. It was underneath the addiction, the trauma, the dysfunction, the resentment, the guilt, the shame, the character defects. All of these things contributed and influenced me wanting to drink, and influenced why my mental health declined the way it did. Addiction was no longer my problem. It became my mental health, because I wasn't addressing these things. I wasn't identifying or self-aware of these things, because it was easier to sleep all day. It was easier to use sleep as a coping mechanism because I didn't want to deal with reality. And so my point is that I've done a lot of things differently this time around. I have done things completely different than I have ever done things before by coming into 12-step programs. So it's not just one thing I can sit here and identify of why I was able to make it through the 4th step this time. Something I really did differently is I took the suggestions seriously. I did the meetings, the 90 and 90. I did a meeting every day for sure, no matter what. I would do 2 meetings a day, sometimes 3 if that's what I needed, because Zoom is accessible to anyone, anywhere, at any time. So I had no excuse or justifications of why I couldn't apply myself to the program. And for me, I couldn't just take a suggestion once. And you'll hear me say this a lot because it's true. And it's been true for me. Repetition matters. I had all of these old habits, attitudes, patterns, and beliefs that were a part of me and running me and running the show. And so I had to be willing to do things differently. I had to be willing to listen to people and to actually apply what I was learning to different areas of my life through action. So all my hard work has been because of action. Without action, there's nothing. Nothing can get done. I had knowledge floating around in my head for years. But I didn't know how to apply the knowledge I was learning. And that's what 12-step programs did. It gave me the people, the resources, and the information to show me how to change. And I took the suggestions and I turned them into habits. So by the time I made it to my 4th step, I already had new healthy habits in place. You see what I'm saying? I built a solid support system of people I could really trust. People I could pick up the phone and call, and they would be there for me in a positive, healthy way. Not people that I could call to relive my past and talk about my past and get stuck in the past with. I hung around people who had what I wanted. Positive people, honest people, people who kept an open mind, who were not judgmental or critical of themselves or other people, people who were willing and really wanted change with their heart. That's the type of people I had to surround myself around, because we are who we surround ourselves around, right? So if I'm surrounding myself around harmful, negative people, then I'm going to be a negative person. If I'm surrounding myself around a dishonest person, I'm going to pretty much be dishonest, because an honest person is not going to want to hang out with a dishonest person. A dishonest person is definitely not going to want to be hanging out with an honest person, because it will make them see who they are not. So that is my personal experience. The support system is crucial. The fellowship is critical. I would not be where I'm at without the fellowship. I needed people to guide me and teach me how this program worked. And I didn't have hope in myself when I first came to the fellowship, but I had hope in the fellowship. I had hope that what these people were telling me was true because I could see it happening. I could see the change within them. They would talk about painful things, but they would have peace in their eyes. So I wanted that. And that's something that kept me coming back all those years, is that I wanted what these people had. I just didn't know how to get there. So taking the suggestions, going to meetings, the fellowship, meetings, building a solid support system, I needed those tools. So I had all these things in place by the time I got to my 4-step. Now for me, I had to do a lot of preparing and planning for my 4-step because I know how emotionally low I can get. I know how spun out I can get in my emotions, and that inner self-talk can just get really loud in the beginning of recovery. So I had to do little things to help me not get stuck in that negative fixed mindset. Little things as in saying affirmations out loud, reading something positive out loud, reading the Serenity Prayer out loud repetitively. Like, I had to constantly be filling my head with things that were going to help me grow and things that were going to make me feel good. So I was always doing that in recovery, and I'm still doing that now. And it's a really good, easy tool that I've used that's helped me. But the most important thing is that I thoroughly worked through the steps. I did not rush this time around. And where before I would rush, I wasn't really taking the suggestions. I wasn't really doing meetings. I was hanging around people I shouldn't have been. So I thoroughly took my time working steps 1 through 3. So by the time I got to my 4-step, I had done everything the program suggests, and I was ready. I believed in a power greater than myself around my 4-step, and I was connected to this power, but not the way I'm connected now. I was connected enough to this power to feel connected at that time, but compared to where I am now, it's a different type of connection. So my connection to myself and to the universe came much later after my 4-step. So for me, the hardest part was starting the 4-step. I feared writing everything I had ever done. They have 4 sections of the 4-step. The first is the resentments. The second is the fears. The third is the sex conduct. And the 4th is the harms done. That's a written inventory on my entire life. And I had a sponsor, that had been through the steps, that had a sponsor who was working an honest program to show me how to make it through my 4-step. I had other people to show me what I could do to help me get through my 4-step. I just had to be willing to listen. I had to be willing to take what these things people were saying me, and I had to be willing to take them out in action. And for me, this is a different experience than many others will experience. If, I did my 12-step programs through Zoom, so my sponsor was out of state. Now, usually a sponsor in state and they see each other in person in an in-person setting, a person will complete the 5th step in one setting, and the 5th step is reading the 4th step out loud to somebody you trust. And so I didn't have that opportunity to read it all at once. So mine was broken up of reading it for a couple hours a day on this day, skipping 2 days, and then doing it again the next day. So like, I wasn't able to just get it out all at once. And so I feel like I had to work a lot harder with managing my emotional sobriety, taking action when my brain didn't want to, feeling my feelings because feelings suck and nobody wants to feel feelings, and I didn't have anything to numb out, keeping my commitments, keeping my recovery schedule. Doing all these things got me through the 4-step, because when I was processing, I'm going to feel the way I feel regardless if I do a meeting or I don't do a meeting. And that's been my experience. Like, I'm still going to have this yucky emotion going on, so I might as well be productive and have this yucky emotion instead of unproductive, than beat myself up for being unproductive. That's insanity. And I had to learn that the hard way. I prepared really hard for my 4-step, and what I mean is I created a plan. what am I going to do if I feel like drinking? What am I going to do if this happens, or this happens with me, or I start thinking like this, or I'm going to do this? Because I know who the old Taylor was. I knew what I was capable of. And I was scared. I was scared that that was something that was going to make me relapse, because I didn't want to face these emotions, okay? I didn't know how to face these emotions. I had to teach myself. And really leaning on my support system really got me through. And leaning on myself. Positive self-talk. Positive self-talk got me to where I'm at today. Positive self-talk and action. The connection to a higher power, whatever it is, came much later in the program for me. And what I had to do is, because I would procrastinate. When I knew I should have been working on my 4-step, I would procrastinate. And I call it healthy procrastination, which is me doing some other type of self-development work to distract myself from doing the task that I need to get done. Although it's helping me grow, it's still not helping me get my 4-step done, right? So I had to literally set a timer. And I had to pick a specific day and time and say, you know what, at this time, at this day, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to set my timer for 10 minutes. When the timer's up, I'm just going to stop writing, but just at least for 10 minutes, I'm going to write. And for me, I did that 10-minute timer because I knew once I got started that it would just flow. It would just start flowing. Getting started is the hardest part for everybody. But once I started, it just kept flowing. And I mean, that's a lot of stuff I had to write down. It took me about 2 to 3 weeks to complete that 5th step with my sponsor through Zoom. And so, like I said, that's about 2 to 3 weeks, almost a month of just processing things, lows and highs, the resentment, the shame, the guilt, the inner critic, all these things I faced. And the only way that I've been able to heal is to face these emotions and to look them head on and be like, I'm going to process this, I'm going to deal with this, and I'm going to learn how to manage this in a healthy way. That's willingness. I had to change my perspective towards pain. So these things were really important of why I was able to complete the 4-step. You know, a lot of people, and I speak, you know, for people I know, their experience, strength, and hope that I learn in meetings is that that's what everybody fears, is facing reality, because we've been living in delusion and denial for so long that we think of ourselves a certain way. We think of people a certain way. We think of the world a certain way. We're carrying all this resentment, shame, and guilt. And so when we see the truth for what it really is, it's painful. It's painful. And nobody wants to cope or face with pain. Who wants to do that, right? And especially people in addiction that were not taught how to cope with pain in a healthy way. Nobody wants to face pain. Pain's not fun. So I had to get used to feeling pain. I had to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so these little things contributed to why I was able to complete my 4-step. And still to this day, I've got 2 years in recovery, and I have done many 4-steps on situations and people that have happened in my life. And the thing about the resentments part of the 4-step, because that's the first section, is I wrote down all my resentments. And my sponsor suggests that I pray for these people. And at the time, I was not in a place where I was even willing to pray for these people. I wasn't. And I told her that straight up. And then, you know, life really became lifey. And I kept having these resentments. And I was like, why is nothing else working? My sponsor was like, well, Taylor, did you pray for these people like I suggested? I'm like, well, no, I haven't done that yet. And so, yeah. And so, every night I would come outside, I would start praying for my mother. And I did not feel nothing when I first started. I had hatred in my heart for the things she'd done for me growing up. And I just kept pushing it. You know, I kept asking my higher power to guide her towards the truth within herself, to help her be free from her pain, to see the truth, and to heal. And that's the type of prayer I said. And I didn't mean it at first, but I kept at it because that's what these people in 12-step programs told me to do. They told me to keep trying. So I believed these people, right? I had to have hope in something. I had hope in these people. And then, like, within a week, I started feeling different within my heart. And so I realized the big book suggests pray for that person, once a day for 2 weeks. And I realized that every time I think about this person, I can pray for them. And I think that helped me get rid of my resentment a lot faster than just praying for that person once a day. Why not pray for someone every time I think about them that has caused me harm? And that's really helped me. And that's actually helped I've developed empathy towards my mother, because I was so broken that I didn't know how to change. I was so broken and miserable that I would take out my pain on everyone else, because it was too hard for me to take responsibility for my actions. It was too hard for me to feel the pain that came along with taking responsibility. And that's exactly where my mother is in life, exactly where she's at. And so me being able to take responsibility and me being able to face my pain brought me to healing. It brought me to gratitude. It brought me to all these things that I never thought was even possible. The life I have now is what I dreamed of having. I would fantasize about who I am now. I would fantasize about that in the past. I never thought that it could actually happen, but I had to be willing to put in the action. I had to be willing to put in the action. And the fears part, I had to pray for my fears, and I had to realize, and when I put those fears on paper, I realized that there's a solution to each fear. There's a logical solution to each fear. And so for me, that's very important, is to realize that, yes, I have these fears, but really I'm powerless over life. I'm powerless over people. I can't control if this fear is going to happen or if it's not, but I can do my part, and I can see what control I do have. And that's helped me. Like, what am I in control of? What can I change? And what the 4-step did, it taught me how to self-reflect. It taught me how to take a 10-step inventory on myself every night. AA suggests to take a 10-step inventory every night to review your day. And when I started implementing that tool into my daily life, that is when my self-reflection really started kicking off. Because I started becoming aware of things that I wouldn't have became aware of if I would have never started the 10-step inventory. It became such a habit where today, if I'm feeling some type of way, I grab my notebook and I come outside and I just start writing. I just start writing like keywords of why I feel the way I feel, and like space them out on paper so I can like see a graph out of them and like just see them all separate, instead of like writing a long letter. Like, I like to see everything. And I like to see there's always an underneath reason. Like, there's something underneath the surface that's really hitting me deep. And so if I can figure that out without over analyzing it, to just analyzing and identifying it, to just get to the point of where I can come up to a solution to help me get over the way I'm feeling. And that's what self-reflection is for me. It's the ability to take an inventory of myself, to see what can I fix about myself? Where was I wrong? Who did I harm? Was I selfish and dishonest? All those things, it helped me learn how to self-reflect on my own. And the steps don't stop just when a person works 1 through 12. I've had to apply these steps daily to my daily life. 10, 11, and 12 are the main steps that if I don't do on a daily basis, I'm fucked. I'm serious. Since I've been incorporating these steps in my daily routine in my daily routine every day for over a year, I have not regretted it. And there have been times where I have like missed this or missed that, and I could feel myself starting to get irritable, discontent, and just blah, so the program suggests things for a reason, right? They wouldn't suggest these things if they didn't work. Billions and billions of people have changed their life because of these 12 steps. And I just had to be willing to face my pain. I had to be willing to face who I had become. And that was hard. But I had people, and I had a solution, and I had people, the fellowship, who could help me get through that. So the 4th step was the beginning of my healing process. It allowed me to become self-aware of the things I had done to harm myself and others. It allowed me to take responsibility. It allowed me to process that pain. and to learn how to forgive myself for the pain I had caused myself and other people. And something I did that I forgot to add that is very important is that I took that 4-step and I took it to a counselor. So we could work in depth with that 4-step in counseling, right? So that helped me be able to process things more, to address things more. And it gave the counselor a really good idea of, the underneath it all, like my channel's called. That's why I named it that. So the 4-step helped me see reality. And once I saw reality, I could not unsee it. I couldn't. I really couldn't. But like I said, 2 months, 3 months of processing emotions. And I'm just going to keep it real. Like, I had a lot of emotions I had to process after my 5th step. And I had to be okay with being okay with processing my emotions. I had to implement positive self-talk. When I would catch myself blaming myself or shaming or criticizing myself, I would take action to not think like that. I don't have control over my first thought, but I do over the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th and 5th. And I do have control in who I surround myself around, who makes me feel good about myself and who doesn't make me feel good about myself. And so these things have gotten me to where I'm at today. And it's really funny because the steps and just the things they teach in AA and 12-step programs in general can apply to anybody's life. You don't have to be an addict. That's why they have Emotions Anonymous. They have over 50 12-step programs through Zoom and in person. There are so many resources. They have meetings where they have 24-hour parking lot for sober and emotional support. Like, the resources are out there. And I'm grateful that I had the ability to meet people who could guide me and show me how this program works. So I hope this video can help you if you're thinking about getting involved in 12-step programs, or if you're in 12-step programs and you're worried about your 4th-step. It's gonna be all right. I had to face my pain to heal. I had to be willing to face my pain. That is the only way I was able to really heal. And I'm still healing parts of me. This is gonna be a lifelong process, but the hardest part's done. I will never have to face the things that I faced those few months with processing my 4-step ever again. And if they do come up, they're very tiny, very manageable, very manageable. And so I hope this video can help you on your healing journey. And I hope you find the same power that I have found within myself, within yourself.